Scott, I kind of forced you to do a lot of homework today. You and I are supposed to do a pregame show elsewhere. So I know you looked up some Detroit Lions stuff versus the Texans. How you feeling about this matchup, man? I know heading into this one, our guys Nick and Chris, they said the Lions hadn't faced an elite quarterback yet. C.J. Stroud was projected to be that this year. How you feeling about this Detroit Lions secondary versus C.J. Stroud?
I feel really good about it if Nico Collins doesn't play. And I think it's from a Texan standpoint, it's does Nico Collins play and does Will Anderson play? And that's it. Nico Collins is coming off of IR with a hamstring injury. He's yet to practice. I kind of doubt that he does play. And that just puts them behind so much without Stephon Diggs. Realistically, it's Tank Dell, who's a good player. He's fine. He's in year 2. I think he'll be more productive with more targets, more target volume. But they're a very different offense with Nico Collins on the field than they are without him. So then it's John Mechie a little bit, Robert Woods. Those guys don't, this sounds ridiculous, but I wouldn't be afraid of lining up against those guys. Dalton Schultz can play, but, so without Nico Collins, that offense is limited. Joe Mixon's a good player. I kind of expect him to do okay. The Lions' run defense has been good. I would feel I'd have different vibes entirely if Nico Collins and Will Anderson play. Will Anderson, I think, has a better chance to play than Collins, and he's kind of a different story. But the Lions' O-line's pretty good. I think they can handle him. He's not necessarily the kind of player that gives them huge problems, speed and quickness and bend. He's more of a power rusher. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I feel like the Lions are in a pretty good position going into this game. The Texans have given up a ton of passing touchdowns, so I could see Goff having a pretty good game, a game like a lot of people won't see coming. I know the Lions can run the ball, and it makes it pretty easy when you can gash teams the way they can running the ball. Hey, I'm just going to hand it off to you, and you can take it for 30 or 40 yards or more. Either running back can do it. So their offense is pretty electric right now. I feel good. Again, it's early in the week to know whether or not some of these guys are going to play, but we'll see.
I'm really thinking about that same kind of line with these Texans and with what Jared Goff's going to do, and especially looking at Jameson Williams coming back in this game. I'm ready to put like an irresponsible amount of money on some Jameson Williams bets this weekend, because I could see I wanted to look up and see like what it would be for him to get 2 touchdowns, because these safeties on the Texans are where they've been getting gashed and deep down the middle, deep in the seam, and I feel like they're gonna not force the ball to Jameson Williams, but make sure he gets some on his return back. And if that guy gets the ball in his hands in open field, it could be one play and he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, he could be. And Derek Stingley's there. He's a good player, but outside of that, they have 2 rookies starting for them. Kamari Lassiter from Georgia. Kalen Bullock is playing free safety for them. So there's mistakes that get made, right? There's a little bit of stuff that happens. Jalen Petrie is more of their Brian Branch kind of player, and he's a really good player too. But they're young in their secondary, and it shows. The Lions could do some really interesting things. Goff could have a 3+ touchdown kind of a game. Amon-Ra is going to get his. I think Laporte has been doing some good things, but there's a breakout coming there. You mentioned J-Mo. Tim Patrick is yet to score. That's coming. There's just a lot of good stuff happening with the Lions, both on offense and defense. Defensively, I think the Texans struggle on the interior of their offensive line, and that's kind of where right now, when you look at what DJ Reader is doing and what Aleem McNeil's doing, huge advantage for the Lions there. They should be able to bully their way, and compress the pocket and not allow Stroud to step up into the pocket to make throws, which is a big deal because he's not necessarily mobile in a traditional sense. He's more mobile in a traditional sense. It's not like he's Lamar Jackson back there where he's going to run around and get a bunch of first downs. He's mobile in the pocket, but nobody wants to step up into the face of a 300+ pound defensive tackle bearing down on him. So there's advantages everywhere for the Lions, specifically those. And again, if Nico Collins doesn't play, I think the Lions can take away some of that pass game stuff and make them one-dimensional, and then you can see turnovers coming. And I'm not saying it's a blowout kind of a game scenario, but Sunday night could be a really good night for Detroit.
We just played an Aaron Glenn clip, and they talked about how Zadarius Smith can kind of return two ends, kind of just collapsing that pocket or just bull rushing there. Do you think those power ends, missing Aiden Hutchinson and Davenport, has that been the reason why teams are successfully running the football against us these past couple of weeks? Because it's been uncharacteristic of this Detroit Lions defense for the past 3 years almost, where we haven't allowed more than we haven't had a 100-yard rusher in 3 years, and now teams 3 weeks in a row now for 90 yards. What's been the reason for that in the Detroit Lions run?
It's a good question that I don't have a great answer for. Green Bay did kind of light up Detroit, with Josh Jacobs early in that game, and they went away from it. I think that there are elements of the way the Lions are playing without their premium edge guys, where, are they missing a player who will set the edge for them and then make plays in the running game? And there's another guy who hasn't played in the last couple of games, and that's Josh Pascal. So, you're missing some playmaking, you're missing some size. It's a good point, and it's an interesting thought. Are they lacking right now at edge as far as defending the run? I don't know that they're getting torched with wide zone runs or outside zone kind of runs. So it does feel like, at least last week, it felt like Green Bay was hitting them, right, kind of B gap to B gap. I haven't really noticed that the Lions have been bad lately versus the run. So I guess it's just something that's sort of been off my radar. I mean, tell me if you want to tell me what the stats are. I don't know.
Just numbers wise, and we'll talk about this later on the week too if you want. But yeah, I know Aaron Jones, and most of it's been, I guess, two big gashing runs for maybe all the backs. But Aaron Jones got us against the Vikings. Pollard had 90+ yards. Jones had 90+ yards. Jacobs had 90+ yards, but he left early because of that ankle injury he had coming into the game. So I just been wondering, do we miss those power edges, kind of stealing the edge there and helping us out in the run game? I haven't delved into tape either. That's why I figured I'd ask you that question. I want to ask you another one though, unless you want to speak on that.
It's likely that they're struggling in some ways, but it all kind of flows together. They're all pieces of the puzzle. Putting a team in bad down and distance means they're going to throw the ball more. It's a really good thought as far as are they missing playmaking, and the answer is yes. I mean, you're not replacing Hutchinson with anybody, and he's a really good run defender too. So yeah, you're missing that, but you're also missing, like you mentioned, Marcus Davenport and the size and the power and all that stuff. But it all has to fit together, and they have had some issues with personnel, changes in personnel. My guess is they're blitzing a little more. I don't know that exactly to be true. I didn't look at that, but my guess is they're blitzing a little more, and probably getting hit behind the blitz with the running game. Teams, there's smart teams out there, smart coordinators, and if they can run formations and run into lighter boxes, they're going to do that, especially if they think the Lions are going to be blitzing certain places. So maybe there is some of that the Lions are kind of selling out to get some pass rush, and on 1st and 10 teams are running, and that's what it seemed like against Green Bay, was on 1st down that they were running at a pretty good clip, taking advantage of the Lions kind of selling out to try to stop the pass. Do I know that's exactly what's happening? No, but it feels like that.
Yeah, that's what I saw a lot of. I saw a lot of Anzalone and Jack Campbell kind of getting washed down by offensive linemen doing their regular blocks just because they're so close to the line of scrimmage to try to get pressure on the quarterback, and the running back just hit the hole right behind them.